Thank you all for coming to the Gwinnett County Public Library's event this evening. Ashley Davenport, who's working with me here at the library, will be your tech moderator. If you have any trouble hearing anything or need anything over this, you can private chat her. She's also dropped a link in the chat where if you have questions for our panelists, you can send those in and we will ask those later on in the evening. So let's get started. This is part of our series, Yesterday and Tomorrow, the history and impact of historically Black colleges and universities. And we have an illustrious panel who is going to talk about their experiences as HBCU alum. And so I am going to take the next couple of minutes to introduce all of our panelists and tell you a little bit about them. Andrea Armstrong was born in Boston, Massachusetts, and raised in the shadows of Harvard University and MIT. Andrea Haywood Armstrong did not grow up with any aspirations to attend an HBCU. In fact, she did not know what an historically Black school was until the premiere of A Different World in 1987. By the time she started applying to colleges, Andrea's first choice was Hampton University, an HBCU located on the Chesapeake Bay in Virginia. Andrea Haywood Armstrong is a 1998 graduate of Hampton University, and she is a proud pirate. She also holds a master's degree from New York University and Touro College. Currently, she lives in the Beaufort area and is a teacher for Gwinnett County Public Schools. Laron Bond Burns is a senior cost value engineer with Simmons Inc., where she has worked for almost 19 years in various engineering and supply chain positions. Laron is a proud graduate of North Carolina A&T State University, Aggie Pride, where she earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Industrial Engineering. Laron also holds a Master's of Business Administration from Indiana Wesleyan University. Laron is an avid NC-ATSU alumni that supports all things HBCU. She's very active in the Atlanta Alumni Association and is a certified recruiter for her HBCU. Laron also is an active member of Alpha Kappa Alpha, as well as other national professional organizations. She's lived in Gwinnett County for over 10 years. Dr. Gail J. Mitchell-Shields, a private business owner, has an education doctorate. She's a licensed executive level professional in the states of Georgia, South Carolina, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. She has served as a teacher, speech pathologist, supervisor for gifted education, chairperson, State of Ohio Gifted Education Scholarship Team, principal, director, executive director, associate and deputy superintendent of schools, and other positions at the CEO level. Dr. Mitchell-Shields has also served as an academic center director, special education teacher, staff development trainer, and speech-language pathologist with the Department of Defense schools overseas. Dr. Mitchell-Shields has consecutively served as an adjunct instructor with South Carolina and Ohio colleges and universities. Her professional recognition ranges from Ingram's Leadership Award as a school leader and the Charles Barrett Award as formerly an outstanding principal and community advocate. Additionally, she has garnered local state awards for PK-12 school administration, parent advocacy and involvement, and educational leadership. Dr. Mitchell-Shields has been most recently selected to support PK-12 students in varied capacities across the country. In the aforementioned capacities, she has served as a grant administrator and reviewer for the LEA, U.S. Department of Education, and teacher leader with the Department of Defense. New business and opportunities are expanding as Dr. Mitchell-Shields has added certification as a life coach. Gregory Scott was a resident of Gwinnett County since 1999. He is a 1989 graduate of Alabama Agricultural and Mechanical University with a degree in computer science and mathematics. Gregory continued his education with a master's in business administration from the University of Alabama at Birmingham. He currently works for the General Electric Company, GE, as an IT project manager. He and his wife Shannon have 3 daughters who have graduated from Mountain View High School and currently have a son, sophomore at Collins Hill, and another daughter, junior at Mountain View. Their 2 oldest daughters are currently working in Gwinnett County school systems, while their middle daughter will be graduating on May 31st from Tuskegee University with a degree in biology. Mia Whigham is a native of Stone Mountain, Georgia, where she was born and raised. She attended Parkview High School, where she served as the co-captain for the dance team her sophomore and junior year. Following graduation from Parkview, a predominantly white multicultural high school at the time, Mia had a desire to attend an HBCU. After much deliberation between Florida A&M University, Howard University, and Savannah State University, Mia made the decision to stay in the state of Georgia and attend SSU, which is the oldest historically Black university in the state. While at SSU, Mia majored in mass communications and minored in business. She was a member of the Amplifiers dance team and a cheerleader for both football and basketball. In 2009, she was initiated into the illustrious Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, where she served many leadership positions, including vice president through her remaining time in undergrad. Upon graduating from SSU, Mia knew that she could accomplish anything she put her mind to. SSU empowered her to walk her walk, own her truth, and to show up in excellence. Mia has worked at several notable companies over the past years, including State Farm, Hyundai Capital, Carvana, and her current company, Kia Motors of America. Mia is going into her 5th year at Kia Motors, and she has held several positions, which includes consumer affairs analyst, dealer development analyst, and her current role as a district parts and service manager. Mia is currently the youngest district manager in her region, being promoted as one of the few female and minority district managers in the company at the age of 28. She currently resides in Pensacola, Florida, but is being promoted to a major metro market in Nashville, Tennessee. In her spare time, she enjoys traveling, reading, going to the beach, and walking in nature and trying out new restaurants. So, as you can see, we could not have asked for better people to come and speak to you today about being a member of an HBCU and what that has done for your life. So I guess we'll start at the beginning amongst our panel. Why did you decide that you wanted to attend an HBCU? Why was that important? And don't forget to unmute yourself. So yes.
Yeah. Sure, I'll start.
Right.
This is or you can go ahead, Ms. Shields.
Okay. I guess I should say that South Carolina State University is a staple in my family. I have a number of family members who attended South Carolina State. More specifically, my mother and father both attended State. Martha J. Snelling and McClinton Jackson. And they were very much involved in the campus life there. My mother was one of the campus queens and officers. My father was a football player. So we heard about South Carolina State from the time I was in the womb until I started walking and talking. I selected South Carolina State basically because of my parents and also because of the location. At that time, we weren't big into traveling all over the place, and South Carolina State for my family was right in my hometown. So my mother agreed that if I attended State, I would get a car. I would get all of the things that I was hoping for because I would be right there at home. But I didn't get a car. I settled for living on campus all 4 years, and it was outstanding. Again, the environment at State was so supportive. There were a lot of factors that drew me there, you know, other than my parents. And once there, I just fell in love with it and haven't regretted going there ever since.
Yep. That's a great story. My story is probably no different than anybody else's here. When I graduated high school, in Birmingham, Alabama. And I went to an alternative school for the quote unquote gifted and talented. But most of my peers were going to Auburn when we all graduated. So it seemed like we made a pact, hey, all 50 of us or 40 of us, we're going to go to Auburn. In my mind, I wanted to go to Georgia Tech because I wanted to be an engineer. But I realized pretty soon that being in the city of Atlanta would not be the best thing for me academically if I wanted to stay in school. And I was offered a scholarship from Alabama A&M. Now, I had an uncle that went to Tuskegee and an aunt that went to Central State. So I knew about HBCUs, but I really, didn't think I was going to attend one. But when I got the scholarship and I went for a summer orientation, I learned a little bit about the history and definitely made my decision, to go to an HBCU. And I can't say it's one of the best decisions I made in my life, next to, marriage and having kids. It helped open up a whole new world for me. Again, even though I grew up in Birmingham in the heart of the civil rights movement, and, I thought I knew a lot about Black history and culture. When you go to an HBCU, those are the cornerstones of Black culture, Black art, Black music, so on and so forth. So it's basically opening yourself up to a world that you might have assumed you knew, but you really didn't. So I definitely think that was one of the best decisions I made in my life.
Yeah, I agree. Same thing with me. So I didn't come from, unlike Gail, I didn't come from a history of people that went to HBCUs. I always knew I wanted to be in engineering, but I also knew I wanted to be around people that were like-minded people that were looking for the same end results that I wanted, and the people that had the history and the culture with that. So for me, it was, I always knew I wanted to be an engineer, but I wanted to be around like-minded people to help me reach that goal of becoming an engineer, not going somewhere where people don't understand my background, my diversity and my history. So for me, it was that on top of like-minded people. For me, engineering, which A&T is still one of the top engineering schools, HBCU schools in the nation, but having people there that look like you and they're all trying to reach that same goal that you're trying to get to is really great when you're in a college environment. And so that to me made it all worthwhile.
I definitely will agree. I'll say my decision, I went to Parkview High School in Gwinnett County and Trickham Middle School. So at the time, you know, it wasn't as diverse as attending an HBCU. My mom is an educator in Gwinnett County for over 30 years. My parents went to UGA, West Georgia. So I did not come from an immediate family that had the HBCU history. But I was able, where I grew up in DeKalb County, but I went to school in Gwinnett County, and I always kind of envied my friends that went to like Southwest DeKalb or Stevenson or Redan. I begged to go to Redan High School for probably my freshman to junior year, and then I just gave up. So most of my peers at the time, they wanted to go to, you know, UGA, Georgia Tech, Auburn. That was kind of the given. And I was like, no, I want a different experience. I want the support, you know, that I had the friends that were at Stevenson. They had a different experience in high school than I did. So that was kind of my motivation. The whole band aspect, the Greek life, the community, the family is what I really wanted. And I don't regret it at all. I loved it.
Yep.
And as I stated in my bio, I didn't know what an HBCU was growing up. Being from the North and literally being 10 minutes away from Harvard and 10 minutes away from MIT, that was where I was expected to go. And I went to a predominantly white, all girls high school. And I remember my guidance counselor asking for my list of colleges, and she put Hampton as my safety school. And I said, no, that's my number one school. And I don't know why I felt such an inclination to Hampton. I think I'm the only person in my family who's graduated from an HBCU. But just something about looking at the brochure. I mean, people don't get brochures so much anymore, but opening up the brochure and seeing people who look like me, and then going to the campus and really feeling like I was home. That was what persuaded me to attend the school. And especially being a history major, learning history from the African-American perspective, I mean, totally changed things. And for me being a social studies teacher now, it also impacts the way that I teach my students, where I can give them that different perspective.
Thank you all so much. And I love the variety of stories that we have, you know, about how people made that choice in their own lives. So once you were attending your college that you matriculated from, what was your favorite part? What's your fondest memory, or your favorite part of your experience there?
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and start. So for me, I think the fondest memories I have of my school is just the friendships that I maintained, that I developed in school and maintained through the years. And so, of course, it's definitely the historical stuff as far as HBCUs. It's the bands, the Greek letter organizations, it's the sports, it's all of that. But I want to say the friendships. I mean, it's so many friendships and relationships that I built there that here it is several years later after I've graduated, we're still rooting for each other and wanting each other to win and clapping for each one's accomplishment. So the fondest memory for me is just getting to meet so many different people from so many different places. But again, like-minded, and we were all there to get an education. We wanted to get an education from an HBCU and go out and conquer the world. And that's what we all wanted to do. And that was just the best feeling in the world.
I'll second that. I mean, the first real memory I have from my HBCU was our candle lighting ceremony. And every HBCU has something similar where when you're a freshman, that first week you're on campus, you dress up, you take a candle, in the middle of the night, and all the freshmen light them up. That basically indoctrinates you into the school. But I distinctly remember that. But to sort of second Laron's points, when I went to school, in Birmingham, you had certain types of people. When I went to A&M, I met people from the Caribbean, people from Africa, people from Europe, and these were Black people that looked like me. So, when you meet somebody from Kenya or Nigeria and they want to be an engineer, and, the stories that they tell you of how they got to A&M or how they got to the US, it sort of tells you that, hey, you think that you're special, but you're really not that special. And you really need to, be thankful for the blessings that you have. I think that's one of the first things I appreciated, at an HBCU. One of the other things is the professors that I know I still reach out to this day. I mean, when I go to homecoming, I have a biology professor who's really 83 years old now. I know where he lives, so when I drive into Huntsville, I'll stop by his house, introduce myself to his kids. They might not know me, but we'll sit down and talk about what's been going on in my life. And I think that's something that you're always going to have at an HBCU. That many times, like when I went to grad school at a PWI, you end up being a number in a class, and just going to meet with your professor is a chore versus what you have at an HBCU, 9 times out of 10. So those are definitely some memories I'll always keep and cherish.
Well, I want to piggyback on what Greg has said. I agree with every last word. Actually, at our campus, it was so nurturing, just like being at home, away from home. Everybody cared about everyone. And if I had a challenge, a problem I wanted to have responded to, I didn't have to worry about reaching out to my mom, because I could go to any of my professors and talk to them, and they would give me some guidance and allow me to help myself figure out what it is I needed to do. I also was enamored with the entire environment. It was so vivid. I had a lot of we had big bands, and I love for the bands to compete. I look forward to the band challenges. I also liked the atmosphere that included HBCU Spirit Day. Also having sororities and fraternities on campus, and watching the girls and the guys walking around with bricks and dressed in different paraphernalia. That was also enchanting for me. I enjoyed it tremendously. And I guess my fondest memory, though, is actually being a part of the Ivy Circle and holding hands with my sorors and going out on campus and singing and meeting by candlelight, just as Greg described. We had the same experience, and we'd go to the parade ground, and we'd all sing songs that were familiar to us. And we were all familiar with the area too. And so whenever we went somewhere, we all went together. It was everybody for everybody. We really took care of each other.
Yep.
I just want to piggyback on all of y'all, because the most fondest memory for me, of course, was the relationships I built. I actually ended up going to Savannah State at the last minute with one of my best friends, turned roommate, freshman year, turned line sisters, turned lifelong friends. So the relationships basically were my favorite part. But I just love, like Ms. Gail said, the environment, like being on the yard, going to the CAF together every Wednesday. They had quote unquote fried chicken Wednesday. And, we get dressed up and not dressed up, but you try to, get cute and look nice or whatever. And that was like a whole to do. And they would sometimes have a DJ, in the CAF. And it was just a whole experience. And everybody, like everyone said, it was a family. We'd even have, cookouts, and every, Greek organizations were on the plot. It was just not even doing anything necessarily in particular, but just hanging out and having, conversation and fellowship. So those are my fondest memories, because you can't replace that.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. For me at Hampton, what was most memorable was homecoming. Just hearing the drum line Monday night and knowing that homecoming week has started and being part of all the festivities, being involved in the football game. You know, most people like me, we went to the football game. I didn't know anything about football, but I knew about the band and I knew how to dance. Like at Hampton, we had classes. So I'm part of Quintessence 3. And, you know, that was a big deal. That whole issue or that whole thought of legacy and passing on something down, that was really important. Being under the leadership of Dr. Harvey, who has been at Hampton since 1978, leading the school, and just learning from the adults who were there, from our dorm mothers to our grad assistants, just learning from them, but also having professors who really worked one-on-one with you. That was really important to me, who really cared about you, pushed you. There were a lot of opportunities afforded to me because of those relationships. So like Gregory, like you said, at PWIs, you became a number, but at, you know, Alabama, A&M, you weren't a number, you were Gregory Scott, and people knew who you were. And that's how I felt at Hampton. One of my very best friends, we met at the end of my freshman year. And it's so interesting because when I looked at her, I was like, you look weird. I don't think you could be my friend. But we were forced together because interestingly enough, we're both from Boston. And our parents told us we could not come home at Thanksgiving. It was too expensive to fly us home at Thanksgiving and Christmas. So we were part of the group of like 50 students who stayed on campus for Thanksgiving. And that was a memorable time too, because in the CAF, that's when all the good food came out. And so we just had a ball. We had the whole run of the campus, you know, so it was a really, really good time to be there.
I love those stories. Those are all so great. And some of you even started touching on this. So, you know, we've talked about why you decided to go and what you liked best about being there. So how has being an alum of an HBCU affected your life? How has that gone with you into your careers and your post-college life in a variety of ways?
Well, I'll start off by saying Hamptonians love Hamptonians. And I'll never forget, because I lived in New York City for a while, and I was walking on Flatbush Avenue, which is a major street in Brooklyn, just walking wearing my Hampton sweatshirt. And this woman came running up to me, and I was like, okay, what is she running up to me for? And she said, I know you don't know me, but I'm a Hamptonian too. Can I give you a hug? So that kind of camaraderie definitely has had a lasting impression on me. But also in terms of professional life, definitely going to an HBCU has prepared me to function and exist in many different settings. There's a confidence, there's, I don't want to say an air, but really just a confidence that I go into different situations and I know how to navigate through things. And, you know, I know how to deal with different people. And sometimes people might think, well, you went to an HBCU, you were around all African-American people, but that didn't make a difference. There was just a confidence that was given to you, and it made it possible to, again, function in many different arenas and areas.
I agree. I think what an HBCU helped me, you know, post college life was definitely the confidence. You know, a lot of people, you know, came to me when I said I was going to an HBCU and said, hey, well, what happens when you try and get a job? What is that degree going to get you? Or, you know, who can you reach out to as contacts, you know? But what a lot of people don't realize is the Black middle class, the foundation of the Black middle class in this country is based upon HBCUs. If there weren't any HBCUs, we wouldn't have the Black middle class that we have today. One of the things that I do love, and it's not just A&M, but any HBCU, once you're a graduate and you meet people from other HBCUs, we look out for each other. We might not have gone to the same school, but we're extended family because we all have the same sort of experiences that have helped us get to where we are. but definitely one of the things that I distinctly remember is when I graduated from my HBCU, I felt I could do anything I wanted to do and nobody could hold me back. Because those were things that I learned from my professors, from the experience of just graduating from a college. Because, a lot of, Black kids many of them are first time college students in their family or their household. Financially, we don't have all of the resources that many, other groups have. So once, professors know you at these schools, they definitely want to make sure that you stay and graduate. Um, so again, once I graduated, I felt I could accomplish anything I wanted to do. One of my professors basically helped me make the decision to go to grad school, because he basically told me, life is a continuous thing about learning and education. So don't just feel you have to stop here. Keep moving forward. And so he was one of the reasons that I decided to apply to grad schools. And when I was accepted, he was the first person that I reached out to thank for doing that. And the other thing that I distinctly learned from graduating from an HBCU is always reaching back. Reaching back and helping, kids, like whoever's on this call. If anybody had any questions about an HBCU, I have no problem talking about it or providing you with contacts to help you get to where you're going. And that's just not my school, but any HBCU. So, it's one of the things I definitely have learned.
Greg, I want to speak a little bit about the spirituality that you find at the HBCU campus. I think that we all can attest to the fact that many of our colleges and universities were based and built around spiritual ethics and spiritual beliefs and that type of thing. Spirituality has kind of followed me as a result of my going to church right from campus with groups. My sorority sisters and I walked through the campus and walked off campus to attend church. Those connections still exist for me. I still, whenever I go back home, when I leave my mother's house or I leave my aunt's home, I always go to campus so that I could go and walk through the yard and look over and see the church that we used to attend and kind of remember some of those things. And certainly it's followed me because I have become an ordained minister since attending South Carolina State. That's many, many years ago, but still I want to point out that that has stayed with me. As far as what I have achieved, I think that state has been a springboard for many, many things in my life. And just like the others, whenever I am in a different place, when I initially was married and we traveled around the world as a military family, wherever I went, there was a graduate from South Carolina State, believe it or not, in the Philippine Islands, in Hong Kong, Japan, wherever we went, we never failed to meet a fellow Bulldog. As far as the job and the work experience, as Greg described, you want to reach back. And whenever I hear that there is a Bulldog in the vicinity, someone who's graduated from state, even now, I always make some comment to let them know that I'm a fellow Bulldog and I got you. I'm watching out for you. I want to make sure that you are safe and you get where you're going and you have the connections that you need.
You know what? You bring up a good point, Ms. Gail, and I've neglected to bring this up. But if you look at the motto of any HBCU, you're probably going to see one of three words. It's going to be either service, it's either going to be community, or it's going to be education. So, I mean, regardless of the school, they're there to serve the community or educate students or be there of service. And that's not a model that you normally see on most PWI. So I always like my daughter, when she was trying to make her decision to go to college, her first choice was Kennesaw State. And, I'm like, she's telling me all these numbers. Hey, you got, 80% of their kids are, 3.5 GPA, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, okay, well, what's the service of Kennesaw State? What are they doing in the community? And when she looked at Tuskegee and she went down to do the freshman orientation, the first thing that she saw was the Booker T. Washington statue where he's lifting the veil of ignorance, from the slaves. And that was his service of educating, his people. And so again, that's one of the things you're going to see in every HBCU. So you don't have to necessarily look at the numbers in terms of a GPA or scholarships or anything like that. Look at the models of these HBCUs, and they're always going to be about service, doing something in the community, or educating people. And that's really, one of the things that I do like about any HBCU.
I definitely agree with Gregory. For me at Savannah State, our motto was "You can get anywhere from here." And I've taken that motto and I've applied it, especially professionally in my career, that I deserve to be at every table that I sit at. That's my attitude. And I brought that attitude, that mindset to every job interview I've gone on, every company I've worked at, and just my experience with my professors. I think Ms. Gail and Gregory spoke to that as well. They empower you to own your walk, that you deserve to be there. They support you in that way. My most challenging professors now, being in a manufacturer, I never thought I would be in automotive manufacturing professionally, and being pretty much the only African-American manager on a daily basis. And she always empowered me to own my walk and show up authentically, and not to, lower myself down, or I wasn't anything less because I didn't graduate from Harvard or Princeton or UGA or anything like that. But I think that whole experience with those professors, really caring, taking the time to build those relationships one-on-one with you. I learned from one of my hardest professors the importance of documentation and crossing your T's and dotting your I's, and it has saved me professionally so far. Just little things like that. You can't, I feel like maybe at a PWI, you might, like you all said, get lost in a number, but with the, HBCU, you have that one-on-one experience, that family, that mother, father figure that wants to see you succeed. And that's going to continue to encourage you that you belong at every table that you're sitting at. So.
And I agree with what everybody says. I mean, one thing I love about my school, and I know every HBCU can say this, but I feel like my school does it the best. But when you hear Aggie Pride, whoever's there is going to look out for you. They're going to help you. They're going to make sure you're okay. Those are the things, like everybody else said, that you don't necessarily always get from a PWI. People that are really rooting for you. Like when I was in school, more than 25 years ago, the dean of the Department of Engineering, I went to him. I was struggling with the class. It was circuits. And I went to him, I said, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm struggling. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to pass this final. I said, my parents are coming here. He said, wait a minute, take a breath. He said, take a breath. He said, let's say a quick prayer. And let me see what I can do to help you pass this class so you can graduate. And he is now, Dr. Harold Martin is now the chancellor of North Carolina A&T State University. So over 25 years ago, I was there. He was the dean of the Department of Engineering, and now he's the chancellor, and you have those kind of relationships. Yep. So that's the thing to me, like what everybody else said, when it comes to that HBCU network, calling people, talking to people, someone that wants to go to your school, there's a high school student that's interested, can they talk to someone that's in the biology department, if they're in engineering, if they're in education, you can get on a line and go to your alumni association and say, hey, we have this one student that's interested, can someone talk to them? And you'll have a plethora of people wanting to talk to that person to get them to understand the importance of going to an HBCU and understanding what A&T can bring to them, the value they can bring to A&T and what A&T can do for them. So yep. It's nothing like it. It's nothing like it in the world. And also, like Mia said, walking into a room, like, I'm not sure if I went to a PWI in engineering, so I would have been in the minority. I don't know if I would have had the confidence to go and, like you said, apply for jobs and feel like I belong here in this space if I wasn't around or was nurtured around people that were there and helping you to get there. So.
Yep. That circus class gets you every time, doesn't it?
Oh,
well, I'm going to jump off of our prepared questions because we have a couple of things that have come in from people in the audience. And so I wanted to ask you all how these, so somebody's posed the question is, so how do you all feel about HBCUs today and bridging the gap on funding for broader programs or course offerings. Since, you know, if people are interested in something that's very niche, how can they balance that out with an interest in an HBCU? Where does that sit for them? Because oftentimes, you know, out-of-state tuition can be high, or it can be challenging for a variety of reasons. So how do, you know, if somebody has a specific goal, how is there a way to thread those two things together?
Well, certainly, I believe that the schools have grown since we all attended.
Yeah.
I believe that with each year, the school advances. I know for South Carolina State, we have changed the Department of Agriculture to include more of a STEAM atmosphere where we have more technology, education, the arts, everything has expanded. And as far as monies being available, I think that South Carolina State has been very instrumental in providing college entry opportunities to children and boys and girls in the South. And so I am sure that with the influence of different organizations contributing, supporting, I do know that our sorority in particular has made it a mantra to support the HBCUs. And there is a lot of money that is available to support those students who are interested in attending. So I would say that the expansion is insurmountable. It's just so many things that we can do now. And so I think that the person who wrote the question just needs to reach out and explore, find out what is being offered at the particular HBCU that he or she might be interested in.
Yeah, I think they could. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Laron.
No, I was going to say, I think the first thing to do, everything that Gail said is definitely true. I think the first thing to do is if you have like a niche career that you want to go into, start getting involved into those organizations that support their career, and then say, hey, I want to do this at an HBCU. Can someone help me with that direction? Can someone tell me which way to go? Because the one thing about people that graduate from HBCUs, we're in various organizations. We're in various different clubs and teams and sororities, fraternities, all of that. That one person, you can go to that niche group and say, okay, if you know, I would say business, that's not really niche, but say it's a certain type of business degree you want to get, you know, National Black MBA Association would be one thing to get involved in and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for, is this niche business degree I want, and I would like to get it at an HBCU. And I guarantee you someone there will be there to help you, not only tell you which HBCUs have that degree, but also tell you funding. Because I think the one thing that we push in our sorority and every other organization I'm in is there's money for college out there.
Yes.
It's just connecting with the right people, which is not always easy. I say it's just that, but connecting with the right people, the right organizations, the right groups that point you in the right direction to get that information. So I think that's what they would do if it's the money, if it's you know, the niche degree that they want to get, just reach out to clubs or organizations that are involved in those areas, and then go from there, because you'll get a lot of information from there.
Yeah. Another good point of reference is definitely like the United Negro College Fund or the Thurgood Marshall Fund. When it comes to some of these, you know, science, technology, engineering, and math degrees, or some of these new fields, they're definitely at the forefront in helping identify, you know, HBCUs that play that role. I'll give you a perfect example. Over the last year, within my fraternity, you know, Alpha Phi Alpha, we have high school students that we mentor, and we have several kids that say, hey, I want to go to college and you know, get a degree in gaming, you know, basically playing on Xbox or PlayStation. There are several colleges now, and there are HBCU networks that give degrees in gaming, you know, for the most part. You know, so definitely if you have an idea or there's an area that you're interested in, more than likely there's an HBCU playing a role, or at least looking at moving in that direction for that particular, you know, niche field.
And I just like to jump on what Laron said. I don't care what college you're going to. College is expensive.
Yep.
There is very, very expensive. So you just have to get connected to where the money is. You have to do your research, and you have to find where the scholarships are. There are a lot of scholarships in the Gwinnett County area that go unclaimed every year. Some scholarships, committees are begging people to apply for the money. So you just have to do your research and go out there and find out where the money is. I believe where there's a will, there's a way. Even if you want to go to an HBCU and they don't have your particular major or what you think you want to do, they may have something similar. They may have programs that you can get into that will help you do work in what you are interested in. For example, one of my younger daughters, she attends Spelman, and she is in she's a public health major, but she is in an internship program that is allowing her to explore different things within public health. When I was at Hampton, I was a UNCF Mellon fellow. And through that opportunity, I was able to start grad school. And if I had decided to continue, they would have paid for me to get my PhD in whatever field and at whatever school I wanted to. And the program still exists. So I think research is really, really important. And don't get discouraged because you don't see exactly what you want.
That is, I think, excellent advice from everyone. And if you ever need research help, we'll plug the library really fast. Please stop by your local library. That is what those people are in your community to help you do.
Yes.
So and it's like, and we would love helping you get more education. That is what we are all about. Yep. So another person asked, they mentioned that they attended a PWI for their own schooling, and they kind of wish that they maybe had made a different choice. And so some of you were talking about the different tools that attending an HBCU gave you. So in your opinion, what are the different sets of tools offered to Black students at an HBCU as opposed to a PWI?
I'll start. Definitely number one is self-confidence. Your professors, are going to work you, and they're going to have high expectations from you, but they're also going to give you some life lessons and give you that self-confidence. I'll give you a perfect example. I went to an HBCU as an undergrad and then went to a PWI as a grad. And a perfect example is when you go into a classroom at an HBCU, a professor will ask you, how are you doing? How are you feeling today? What's going on in your life? After class, they might hang around 15 or 20 minutes and you can ask questions or bring something up. At the PWI that I went to, the professor walked in a minute before the class started, went to the front, lectured the class and said, my office hours are from this time to this time. And, basically, that was it. And so I think the experience that you get, number one, is that confidence, at least from professors. And it's not just the professors, it's the students also. I mean, when you're with people that look like you, come from the same or different backgrounds that you've come from, you're able to gain insight and seek help in those areas. Whereas, if you're just going into a PWI and you're the only Black person in a class of 50, when they have the study groups, who are you going to reach out to and try and tie into for something as simple as a study group? So that's definitely the first thing an HBCU gives you is confidence in yourself, in your expectations, and celebrating your successes and nurturing you on your failures.
I definitely agree with Gregory. The confidence is one of the main things that I agree that it's a difference, but also perspective. I think just in different situations, a professor at a HBCU can give you a different perspective of how you can approach a situation, whether it be professionally or personally, that someone that of course does not look like you cannot speak to, or how to address certain situations. So for me, that would be the main difference. And like Gregory said, confidence, building you up, supporting your aspirations, supporting even when you're struggling. Some professors I struggle. I'm not a math person, but in accounting, I went to my professor, I'm like, look, I'm trying my best here, but I wasn't just another number. He gave me a different perspective. Hey, let's look at it like this. It's not that you're failing, you're just having challenges. And then he gave me the tools to overcome it so I could graduate on time, because my mom was cutting me off after 4 years. So I thank him for that. But like, so I don't feel like you would get that same experience at a UGA. You know, it's just like, for me, that's me personally, but yeah.
I believe that there's something to social and emotional support at the HBCU. I think that you gain the tools that you need to navigate through life. And as a Black student attending a Black college, you need those particular tools so that when you are introduced into a different environment, you know how to survive, you know how to make your way, you know how to code switch. You know how to do the kinds of things that are needed in order for you to be successful. And I'll just use myself as an example. I don't think that I went wrong, because I was able to get that undergraduate degree at the HBCU and be afforded a scholarship to go to a PWI to complete my graduate work. So I believe that you gain so many different life skills at the HBCU that are very much needed as you move through your life, where you're going and who you are going to become. You learn all of that at your HBCU.
And I'd also like to add on that I can only speak for Hampton, but I can assume this is also true at other HBCUs, but there was diversity there. And I think you touched on that before, Gregory.
Yes.
Like, not all my professors were Black. I did have white professors and professors of other races. And I feel that it was just the culture of the school. It wasn't just about the individual teacher. It was the culture of the school, which is, it doesn't matter our race. We are here to support the whole student. So Hampton, for example, wasn't founded for religious reasons, but it was founded to educate students who had not been given a chance in other situations. And so that whole idea of nurturing the head, the heart, the mind is really, really important. So being able to maneuver in diverse situations, that is also afforded to students, I would say, at most HBCUs as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's not every teacher was Black. Definitely in North Carolina A&T, I didn't have a lot of Black teachers actually in engineering, but like you said, it's the environment, it's the field. Everyone there wants you to succeed. Whereas when I got my master's degree at a PWI, I had to seek out what I needed. Whereas at A&T, if I was struggling with the class or I wasn't my usual self, professor, regardless of the color, hey, are you okay? This isn't the norm for you. Are you okay? And that's what you get at an HBCU. And I think that's one of the main things. And not to take anything away from a PWI, and for the person that asked the question, saying they kind of wish they did, but they didn't. But you can still cultivate those relationships. And when I tell you, you have these relationships from my freshman year, 88 to now, and they see your growth, and they were there when they knew exactly what you were trying to do. And they see you kind of go sideways even now, and they're kind of pushing you. Remember, you were that student. This is what you want to do at school. That's the relationships, and those are the things that you get that you don't necessarily get from a PWI.
And can I just also say one other thing too? I'm thinking about this as you're talking, Laron, which is, you know, after I graduated from Hampton, it wasn't stuck in my mind that I attended an HBCU. I just attended a great university.
Right.
And so within the last year, I've gotten so much from people like, oh my gosh, you attended an HBCU. I wish I were you. I'm like, you know, why? You know, like, what was it like to be around all Black people? What was it like I just look at it, I went to a great university with great professors. And one other thing that I feel that was instilled in me at Hampton that I take with me for life, which is, I just say decorum. how to behave, how to act. And some people take that for granted or say, what do you mean by that? But I mean, I'll never forget when we were in chapel one time, and I don't know who was at the podium, but they said to the gentleman in the room, I need you to stand up. There are ladies in the room who are standing. You gentlemen should not be sitting. Yep. And just thinking about that, and also the dean of students for the women talking to us about how we should come out of our dorm. We should not be wearing slippers and curlers in our hair and things like that. And some people said, oh my gosh, who says that? But just thinking about having pride in yourself and how you present yourself, that was really important, and it stays with me now. You know, some people ask, well, why do I do certain things, or why do you dress that way or do this? And I said, well, it comes from what was instilled in me. Yes, things were instilled from my parents, but definitely at Hampton from day one, it was instilled in us how we are supposed to act, what we are supposed to do. And I totally appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll add to what Ms. Armstrong says. As a Black male going to an HBCU, many times, you know, the male-female ratio, 2-to-1, 3-to-1 sometimes. And to Ms. Armstrong's point, we had dorm monitors explaining to us how we should act. You know, hey, wear a shirt and tie. You know, it's Friday, it's dress up day. Put a shirt and tie on. If you don't have a tie or you don't know how to tie a tie, let me help you. And so you had people like that at HBCUs that I think you don't get at a PWI. You know, I've definitely seen the ladies in the room, you know, gentlemen stand up approach. We used to definitely, like when we went to parties, one of the things we had to do was, if you had a car and you were a male, go down to the female dorms and see who needs a ride to the party. Make sure you bring them back. If you took them to the party, bring them back. You know, so those are things that you definitely learn at HBCUs that I don't think you get anywhere else.
We are coming, sadly, close to the end of our hour together, although I could listen to you all talk about your experiences for much, much longer, but I do want to be respectful of your time. So I'm going to take the last two questions that we received and see if you can kind of answer them together. So somebody asked, you know, when you applied for your first job, were you made to feel like you received an inferior education because you went to an HBCU? But, and kind of in a broader sense of that, the last person asked, you know, in 2020, to a student graduating in 2021 or 2022, how would you answer the question, why an HBCU, or why your alma mater in particular?
I'll let the ladies go first.
So I'll go ahead and start. So when I graduated several years ago, I think I wasn't so concerned about my degree where my degree came from, North Carolina A&T State University. I was really more concerned of the fact that there weren't a lot of women in my field back then. Definitely not Black women. And so for me, you got the comments on, oh, you know, she went to an HBCU as opposed to a different school. But if you interviewed and you were prepared for that interview, you got the job. And then you showed them that you can do exactly what everybody else could do at a PWI. And so back then, that was the case. I think nowadays it isn't, because guess what? We're at the table now. So we're in the hiring positions. We're in the positions to be able to bring candidates in to say, okay, you don't have to say, you know, try to push how great you were at your HBCU. You might be sitting across from someone that actually went to an HBCU and understands you. And so it's still kind of a stigma, because people that know nothing about HBCUs try to think that this is an inferior degree or it's not that important. But you see in the workplace, HBCUs in the workplaces see that they graduate, they get great jobs, and they're very successful. Yep. And so for me, my school, North Carolina A&T University, A&T State University, the #1 public HBCU in the nation, just like any other HBCU, we're all going to plug our HBCU. But mine is that we have a strong STEM program, we have doctorate programs, we have partnerships with NASA, we have all these great things that a lot of these big PWI schools have. And so to me, if you're a high school student and you have your top 5, I would say if an HBCU isn't on your top 5, at least go to one. Yeah. Just research one, go to one, go to the campus, and just see how you feel. Because a lot of times for all of us, I mean, when I go to school, when I go to GHO, and the ones HBCUs know what GHO is, homecoming, homecoming for A&T. Yes, it's a great feeling. But guess what? I go to South Carolina State homecoming, and guess what? I feel like I'm at home there too.
Exactly.
I lived in Hampton. I went to several Hampton theirs, and they're, you know, they're real kind of, you know, they got their stuff together, but I have a good time. It's a great feeling, you know? So you get that feeling you'll definitely get it at A&T, North Carolina A&T State University, but you'll get that feeling at an HBCU. So I would just say, put it on your radar to go to one or two HBCUs as a high school student and just see how you feel. Exactly. Because the one thing we teach in our program, we have a CAP program, our sorority does. And what we say is, it's got to be a place where you feel comfortable. Yeah. So you can't, it'd be great if you go where your parents go, and it'd be great if you go where your friends go, but you have to be comfortable. And like everybody else said, when I walked on the campus of North Carolina A&T State University, I said, I'm home, I'm here. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm here. This is where I want to be. And I would strongly suggest that every high school student does that.
I agree. I mean, again, I can attest when my daughter graduated from Mountain View, you know, again, Kennesaw was her #1 school. She was trying to get in, and, you know, she was like, well, all my friends are going. I was like, well, just go down to Tuskegee and see what it's like. When she got down there, that was the first thing she said, I'm at home. You know, I feel good about this. And so now that she's about to graduate, I can see the change in her from those 4 years ago. You know, I call her Sister Soldier, because now all of a sudden, you know, she knows Frankie Beverly and Mays. She knows Homecoming, Fried Chicken Wednesday. She knows all of that type of stuff. Whereas in the past, she didn't. And, you know, I used to take her up to A&M for homecomings and stuff like that. But I guess I have, you know, kids who want to be the opposite of their parents. So she was like, no, I don't want to go to A&M. I'm never going to go to A&M. You know, I want to go to, you know, these sort of schools. But when she went down to Tuskegee and felt, you know, comfortable in that home, and she's had the same experiences I've had. She has professors that she goes to when she has a problem. She can go and talk to them about anything or any subject that she needs to. She has friends that she's met from around the world. That, you know, she has a couple of friends who graduated last year. She flew up to Minnesota this summer to be with her roommate who's working at Target up there in Minnesota. She has friends in Chicago and Cincinnati now. So, you know, you're going to meet people from around the world at an HBCU and have lifelong relationships with them. She's at that point now where she's developing those relationships now that she's graduating. But I have friends I've known for 30 years, 40 years that I were roommates with back in the 80s in college that I reach out to today and talk to all the time. So you'll definitely have family and extended family if you go to an HBCU.
Well, I want to, before we go, just kind of piggyback on some of the things that Laron said. I want to take it back to the workplace. To answer the person's question, no, I did not feel inferior, and I did not feel like I lacked any skills that were needed for that particular job. Mm-hmm. I actually flowed in there very confident. My mom had ensured that I was dressed to kill as a businesswoman going in for a job. And that was my first suit. I can remember all of that. And I was just so proud to have graduated from college. As Ms. Armstrong said, I didn't think of it as an HBCU. I just thought, I have a college degree. Mm-hmm. I'm very proud. I'm very capable. And I try to emulate that wherever I am and wherever I go. And despite the level of degree that I have, I still feel that Bulldog pride is right there in my heart. Yeah. And I encourage anyone who is interested in the HBCU to explore South Carolina State, because it has grown and expanded so much. It's just a beautiful campus.
Well, look at my mighty Bulldogs from A&M. We are in Huntsville with the Marshall Space Flight Center. So we've had, you know, scientific experiments go to the moon from A&M. So again, you know, I appreciate every HBCU that's out here, but my Bulldogs, you know, hey, A&T, sorry. My Bulldogs are the best HBCU in the land. But the one thing about, you know, the degree, you know, again, you're using the same textbooks that the PWIs are using.
Mhm.
You're an accredited school, they're an accredited school. You have to have the same sort of certifications that they have to have. So to me, there's no difference. I think, again, the key difference between an HBCU and a PWI is if you look at their motto for an HBCU, it's about service, it's about educating, and it's about the community. That's the forefront of what they're trying to do, is educate people or be of service to the community. And you look at the motto of PWI and see what they're about. They're probably not going to be, some of them might be, but many of them are not going to be about servicing the community. It might be some other motto. But that's what I think you need to look at in terms of the key differences. But definitely graduating and going for a job interview, I did not feel inferior whatsoever with my degree.
I definitely agree. I didn't either. I actually kind of thought of it as like a secret weapon because I was prepared. I knew I was qualified, and it's like that was the icing on the cake when they saw, oh, she went to Savannah State. It was kind of like unexpected. So I don't think that I was inferior, or I felt any less prepared than the next person from Georgia Tech walking in. If I knew I was prepared for the job and I was qualified, I went in there ready to get the job. And also, I would encourage, what I did is go on tours. I mean, I'm not sure with COVID right now what's going on with like college tours, but I did that. I went to FAMU, Spelman. I grew up in Atlanta, so Spelman's right down the street, but I went to Clark Atlanta. I even my senior year went to like the homecomings too, because I wanted to see, what type of experience where I wanted to go. And that can just kind of help you make a choice to what feels like home for you when those get back going. I hope they are still going, or virtual tours now. Definitely, I would encourage that as well if you're stuck between trying to make a decision.
And and can I just say, my name is just Andrea. I'm not Miss Armstrong. I'm older, but I'm not that old. So, and we're family, so we're on a first name basis. But I think I know the degree that I'm most proud of is the one I got from Hampton. And nobody can ever tell me that my degree is inferior to anybody else. Nobody should ever think about telling me that, because that's a degree I rep all the time. In my classroom, everything is Hampton. All my students, and I teach a diverse group of students, know about Hampton, okay? And I said, when you're ready to apply, just let me know. But I think about a high school graduate, 2021, 2022. I think about my daughter who graduated in 20. And I think about her deciding to go to Spelman. And I said, well, why do you want to be at Spelman? And she said, because I'm with other people who look like me, who are very, very smart. And that's what she loves about being at Spelman. She loves the sisterhood, the networking. She was like, that is why I'm attending Spelman. And as soon as she walked on the yard, although it was just a little bit on the yard because Spelman is still close, but she just was like, I just love it. I love being there, and I wouldn't choose to go any other place.
And what a wonderful note to end on. I want to thank you all so much for volunteering your time tonight and for sharing all of this wealth of information. This has been such a great panel. I know that I have learned tons. You can see in the chat that people have responded very positively. I also wanted to thank Nikki and Ashley, who work with me here at the library, for helping coordinate this. And I see that Dr. Butler's on our participant list. She helped coordinate a lot of our speakers this evening. So I also wanted to send a shout out to her to thank her. So we are going to be posting this on our YouTube channel, hopefully in the next couple of days, in case you want to watch it again. We also will have another video coming out. It's a pre-recorded video next Thursday about the admissions process for HBCUs. So if you have got inspired tonight and you want to take the next step, then that would be a great place to get started. And I will just also say, to kind of echo the point about service that so many of our panelists made tonight, this is the easiest I've ever had a panel come together in my decade-long career in public library service. These people are passionate about sharing their knowledge and what they know, and it clearly shines through them even years after they've graduated. So Yeah, so I guess with that, we will say goodnight to everybody. Thank you all again for your time. I hope everybody has a great evening wherever you are. And we will see you at the library soon, hopefully.
Okay.